Hello and welcome. Welcome everyone to this space where we are diving into integrating higher frequencies through sound, through light and resonant architecture, and through our resonant architecture, through tuning and toning and harmonizing our vehicle, our vessel, our architecture, our structure, and awakening the body in remembrance as a living instrument of source intelligence and technology. And so today we're beginning here in this space as we could say, workshop discussion. However, and in addition to that, there's so much more we're going to expand upon from here. So this is to much extent an intro, and there's so much more to come. So welcome. I hope you enjoy. And being this is a recording, if you have any questions, we can always expand at the next live, and or you can always send and share questions, comments, how you feel, how you received this video. So as humanity, of course, and the cosmos move through these unprecedented, never before done shifts in consciousness, in perception, and embodiment, many are discovering and remembering that the physical body is far more than a biological vessel. It's a sophisticated, resonant chamber, a tuning and toning instrument of the most advanced technology capable of receiving, translating, integrating, expanding, and expressing increasingly refined pure frequencies of source intelligence and intricate streams and blocks of conscious information, pure tone energy, and awareness. So today, it's timeless now, we are here to explore the roles of sound and light, frequency and resonance in supporting the body vessel's natural capacity to evolve and adapt to expanding states of consciousness. As new and refined, pure frequencies are available through the celestial, galactic, and cosmic fields, our nervous system, our fascia, our spine, our energetic fields and physical structures are learning very swiftly, adapting, learning, expanding to hold greater levels of coherence and universal sensitivity. So beyond multidimensionality, universal is the frequency of oneness, right? Pure state within every cell, within every structure, in every facet, every part of our architecture, to hold pure state with universal sensitivity and sensing, sensing with every aspect of our body, every aspect of our fields, and also filtering that energy information and integrating it with precision, integrating it within our body, within our cells, our structure, within every step and every breath. So through sound and light, we can support the continuous refining and fine-tuning of our vessels through our cosmic architecture, where we're co-creating with our body, with our structures, all of our architecture, our templates, our codex, all of the layers within our body vessel, with our cosmic codex, and within our biology. so that, and to become a clear conduit for greater awareness, intuition, co-creation, and expansion, bridging and bringing our pure essence all the way through every facet of our being, physically and energetically, on every layer, octave, and universally through the unified field. And so today, we're going to discuss how sound and light influence our energetic systems as we consciously utilize. Remember how to use sound and light specifically as technology to influence our energetic systems, our universal sensory perceptions, perceiving, sensing, filtering, processing, perception through all of our pathways, our neurological pathways, through our fascia, which is woven within the unity consciousness field, the unified field, our fascia, through our spine. We just had a spine, the living spine, where every interwoven aspect within the spine is interwoven with the fascia. And the fascia is electric, sensor. So is the nervous system, and they're all interwoven with the tissues, the muscles, and everything that we are receiving through our skin, our pores. It's information, it's energy. So our biological biological resonance, excuse me, and structures as we learn to sustain and maintain harmony and coherence within ourselves. Meaning that what's happening is as we are remembering and consciously utilizing sound and light to influence our energetic systems, meaning to tune and fine tune our systems, harmonize perhaps and calibrate aspects of our integration of the light. Say we're receiving energy, information, sensing, and we start to tune, fine tune, fine tune. And what that's doing is it's tuning and fine tuning and harmonizing how we are coherently receiving, expressing, filtering, processing through all of our networks, all of our systems, our organs, our tissues, our brain, all of our, our skin, every sensor there is, meridians, and all of it all at once, and very efficiently where there's not overwhelm, right? So as we discover and remember, rediscover and remember that we are all sound and light, you could say healers, but really transformers, sound and light creators, sound and light builders through sound and light as a structure. As we do that, then we learn and remember, remind, reflect how to sustain and maintain that harmony and coherence within ourselves when and as everything is shifting, which everything is changing, right? And it's changing structurally, energetically. It's changing massively right now in this specific juncture. So the more swiftly we discover and remember that and fine tune and harmonize ourselves within our pure state, then we are actually consciously co-creating with fields of energy and information, how we're tuning that energy and information. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. So today, what we're going to begin to discover and explore, of course, dive into next time further, other times, probably more than one. So much to dive into, of course. And so we're going to begin with the body as a resonant chamber and living technology. And also sound and light as organizing principles of consciousness, fine-tuning the nervous system, the body systems, and the energetic fields frequency, coherence, and the refinement of perception, of course, through that, with that, expanding sensory awareness, how we sense what we sense, how we tune what we sense, and beyond traditional frameworks, what we think, we know, beyond what is known as sensory, right? Beyond the five senses. We are expanding beyond that and sensing with all of our systems, organs, tissues, brain, neurons, fascia, and all the layers in between, all of our structural architecture, our antennas, right? As everything is receiving, sensing, processing. So we'll also get into, to some extent, but we actually have another live on this soon, depending when you see this, of course. It's on July 5th. And what that part of that will bring into awareness in this discussion is why and how language, articulation, and communication are evolving. Now, that's very important because that's interrelated and interwoven. And that's interwoven with frequency, sound, and light. So how, why, and about the articulation and communication of our languaging, our communication with field-to-field awareness, how that's changing. So we'll open the floor, so to speak, talking about that today, and then we're going to dive in further on July 5th. So, of course, again, depending when you see this. So we will begin to open the floor, so to speak, on greater sensitivity to subtle fields and information, which is energy in your field. And now when I say information, which is energy, what I mean by that is I look at energy and information as the same, right? So if you have energy in your field, that's information. And if you have information, it's energy. And of course, light is information. So there's some correlations, of course, very many correlations between that. And what we're going to start to talk about more soon as well is developing greater sensitivity to subtle fields, which is subtle energy fields, where you are, other people's fields, right? Fields of energy movement, say fields of the energy changing, shifting, opening, and the information in your field. So being aware of your field and other people's fields, or the energy, the fields of, say, an airport or somewhere. So it's important to know about and see and perceive and sense your field, and of course correlate and tune accordingly, right? So there's a lot to discuss on that. So also, we're going to dive into creating structures and fields of information and energy, which I began to discuss. Creating structures and fields of information and energy capable of sustaining and integrating expanded states of awareness. Now that's parallel to what I mentioned, is creating fields of information, tuned light frequency, right? With very specific instructions to do certain things. And so as we dive into that to some extent today, such a big topic and understanding, we're going to have another live where we can discuss, exchange, talk about this. It's so important. Creating structures, fields of information and energy capable of sustaining, integrating expanded states of awareness. So important, I said it twice. As perception expands, many experiences become increasingly sensory, spatial, energetic, and universal in nature, as we're probably experiencing in a multitude of ways right now. So often what's being experienced cannot be fully explained through that conventional language because it's felt, it's sensed, and it's known, it's soul known, it's a knowingness through direct resonance itself, and it's unfolding literally dimensionally, right? And it's unfolding cosmically through the unified field. So what we're sensing could be and is many different aspects and or layers, and how we're tuned and toned And tuning in and refining and perhaps tuning out will be what we're experiencing through the resonance itself, right? Because resonance and coherence will recede energy away and magnetize too. So, this introduction today invites everyone into a deeper exploration of how sound and light and conscious awareness supports these ongoing required refinements and expansions of our cosmic human blend, upgrading, evolving, expanding, and cosmic instruments, our body vessel, our temple, to expand our ability to greater embodied levels of coherence, presence, and conscious co-creation within and as the unfolding evolution of and for all. So, where we're going to begin is the foundations of our living instrument. Now, some of that we dove into yesterday, which was ancient already. We dove into with the living spine. It was an immersion where our foundational architecture is a spine. It's actually a foundation. And so from there, we expand, of course, with our energy, our fields, our energy body, our etheric field body. I've heard it interchanged, so however you want to articulate that. Our geometrical template blueprint is geometry unique to everyone, which includes all of your cosmic codex, right? Your geometry, that's part of your architecture. It's your cosmic architecture. And through the foundation of your living instrument, structure, bones, tissues, fascia, organs, brain, neurons, blood, plasma, water, everything we don't need to name is that foundation of our sensory perceptions and widening now continuously the perception of the physical body as an advanced resonant technology, right? A resonant chamber and vessel. And when precisely tuned and toned through directed light frequencies as technology, our biology and cellular functionality will operate at its full capacity and hold our pure luminosity, which is our innate state as light, right? So as we tune and fine tune and we change, right? We'll be evolving, expanding, changing. We'll continuously tune and fine tune what those instructions are of how we're tuning, right? What tone, what sound. What moment do we need to perhaps go up different octaves? Frequency, bandwidth. We'll have a different song to tune or different information for going to an airport versus a family gathering, right? They need to tune the instrument differently or adjust in between while you're there. So the more we're conscious and aware of our fields at all times, our energy, other energy fields, assists us to navigate and tune within those subtle fields to really integrate and embody in our body our soul's eternal expression, light, in and through our physical being and all of our systems as one unified system with the unified field. And that also includes the pyramidal networks within our body and in and through Gaia, right? And the cosmos in its fullest potentiality, meaning that aligned, harmonized, tuned all of our pyramidal structures within our body, all of our pyramidal structures within our hands and our feet and our knees, within our whole vessel, harmonized, tuned within the unified field, all of our cosmic architecture, structural architecture, energy fields, having that alignment, refinement, and tune and tone, and that with simultaneously is in alignment to hear, tune, and tone within and through Gaia, the earth, the core, celestial, cosmic, geology, energy, information, tune to feel the subtleties. And beyond there, even, is the cosmos, pyramidal structures within the cosmos, alignments, refinements of proximities and nodes, gateways, new gateway systems within the cosmos, fields of frequency bandwidth, stars, galaxies, parallel universes, sound verses. So, fullest capacity or fullest potentiality really is all. It really is all. So, all of us, our body, our energy, our fields, our architecture need to be in tune, right? They need to be in resonance and in unified presence, right? So, and what this does beyond there is awakens the remembrance of our universal awareness. I use universal beyond the word multidimensional because multidimensional, we'll just get into this for a moment. Multidimensional is to some extent a perception of the cosmos as frequency fields that are separated, so to speak, on different bandwidths. And yes, there are different frequency fields. However, to express, again, articulation with words as they are, universal awareness encompasses all, the all and the nothing, beyond multidimensionality. Multidimensionality being different dimensions as different, and universal being the all-encompassing all of everything and nothing. Which is so big, it's interesting to talk about, right? So, again, awakening this, what this does, what we're discussing, beginning to, is it awakens the remembrance of our universal, all and nothing, awareness of all of the vast layers and levels of our being through the cosmos. And also to direct, this is important, to direct our light, right? To direct with full conscious authority, meaning that you are consciously and precisely directing your light every moment, all of your architecture unified, directing in a full authority, meaning sovereignty, totality, full purity, your light, our energy and expressions, which does what? And is what? Is pure creation. So it's essential to know and come into remembrance now and eternally to tune into and align with only the fields. We'll say it this way, only the fields, octaves, or dimensions, frequencies of relativity in resonance and relevancy to what aspects of your current mission roles and responsibilities require. And I'll simplify that because it sounds like a lot, but really that means not to sense into all the levels and layers of everything that is emitting, right? Is to allow your tune and tone of your own harmonics resonance, allow coherence, your coherence, and your natural emanation to bring to you that in resonance and to naturally recede away other frequencies, right? Other information slash energy or other emanations, people, places, things, however you want to express that, right? Other fields of emanation. And so this is another reason, there's so many, why tuning and fine-tuning your vessels, your energy, your systems, to your pure tone seed frequency is so essential because we'll give us an example. And I've heard this so many times, but it doesn't really feel any sort of relevancy with me. So I'll give this as an example. When people talk about collective energies, right? They'll say, oh, collective energies feel this way. Or collectively, it feels like people are experiencing this, right? And for example, I don't hear collective energies. I never hear them. How do I want to explain it? Energy of the earth, undulations, say earthquakes, those kinds of things, yes. But collective energies, say emotions, uh, purging wounds, purification. I don't hear that, but that's because I specifically tune and tone and would need to consciously tune into that frequency to see like what's going on in that collective, which I almost never do because it's not relevant to what I'm working on, right? So to be specific and precise about what you're tuned into and how you are tuned, and to what radio dial is literally what station we could say, or what octave, what frequency bandwidth. Yeah, I mean, I want to say dimension, but that's not quite correct. Octave frequency bandwidth you are on, right? Which will be what music you hear, meaning what frequency you hear, what conversations, what storylines, what energy slash information that will come into your awareness will be where you're tuned, right? Otherwise, you won't hear it because you're on a different station. So it's important because if the music, so to speak, the frequency or the story, the storylines, energy, information, the fields, people in your field, so to speak, if the music you're hearing, right, the emanation, uh, needs to be the music that is correct for you, right, that resonates. And if it doesn't know, if it no longer resonates, meaning that what you're feeling, sensing of these music, storylines, energy, people, expressions, if it doesn't resonate, which many people are resonating or vibrating out of lots of experiences right now, right? To refine and get completely in alignment. What that does is, or as we do, let's say it that way, when and as you tune your vessel and your energy to a different station, octave, and your whole instrument, suddenly you are on a whole different dial, right? A whole different channel and station, listening to way different music, vastly different frequency, way different conversations, different energy, meaning that uh, most likely the people, places, things, conversations are much different. So, something to fine tune into or out of. The body, next, we're going to discuss the body as a resonant chamber and living technology, where we understand the physical form as an advanced biophotonic receiver, processor, filter, tuning fork, very much so, resonant chamber, integrator, and transmitter, right? All of our systems, as we discussed earlier, all of our systems, all of our tissues, organs, skin, fascia, are capable and do this now. Organ, brain, lobes, fascia, bones, the spine, the discs and the teeth, right? It's crystalline structure. And our hands and our feet, the pyramids within them, and the pyramidal structures throughout our body are acting as pyramids, right? Temples, activators with the prana within, right? And amplifying, amplifiers of and to our source infinite connection and our own pure tone emanation, right? So, how our biological structures, our bones, water, the cells, the molecular structures, the crystalline matrices, and the blood plasma. And of course, the divine cosmic architecture, our divine templates and blueprints are naturally amplifying and naturally amplify, expand, and anchor light frequencies, light code, you could call it that, and information, which is energy, is light. And so, when and how we are tuned within our resonant vessel and unified field, and to what degree, is very important, right? So, as and when we realize and integrate this awareness and begin to tune and fine tune our instruments, then we're also able to co-create those precise fields of energy and information I was discussing before. Because through precisely directed and tuned light technology, which are additional, very specific fields of information, energy, codes, and instructions, what we are doing is creating beyond and expanding beyond and within our primordial frequency, right? Whatever and however we are tuning and toning those fields is expanding within our fields as our fields and expanding outwardly whatever that information is, however big that field is, however big we are, so to speak, which is infinite. So imagine the magnitude, right? And this further amplifies our cosmic codex, our codes, information, instructions, and our libraries of wisdom, it's DNA, which have specific functions. So, an example, 1 second here. A great example of that would be like an airport, right? We went to an airport, say, or a conference, somewhere there's a lot of people, or a group gathering, there's, several people, and or would be different than working on the grid, right? Working with the grid lines and the templates and the functions, right? The functions are infinite to unfold of what it's precisely designed and tuned to do. Meaning that if you go to the airport, how you will tune and tone those frequencies of information, light, instructions, will be different than, say going to a conference or a group gathering, or family function, or with the grid, right? Working, so you're singing and toning at the river or with waters, be different information beyond your fields of expression, your primordial pure tone. This is beyond there because you're naturally emanating your own information, right? Your own pure tone in essence. This is what and how we're choosing to tune and fine tune beyond there, which actually, I do this all the time. I've been doing this for a very long time, where I will specifically say um, expand the fields of information, but I'm tuning and toning of the field. And then I will create configurations. For example, say I'm going somewhere there's a lot of people. Will be specific configurations to say open, clear, collapse, restructure. Yeah, that's easy. Multiple parallel, we could just say, of what all that information and energy can be doing. So that's within and beyond my field of expression. And then as and when it needs to be changed, I will change it. I will rewrite the fields of information differently. So there's a lot that we can cover on this, because this is very important. And this is why I've been mentioning recently, precision is so important, because how those instructions are written and to what level of specificity will be exactly what unfolds. So you must be specific, right? And the fields, right? What those fields of information, energy, what those fields are expressing and their purposes really depend on that moment, what's unfolding, or perhaps you go somewhere and you change it, those fields, depending on what's happening there, right? What you sense, what you feel, other subtle information, who's there, what's suddenly unfolding when you find out as you arrive. So much we'll dive into soon on that. Let's also talk about sound and light as organizing principles of consciousness. Very important. And now we'll begin discussing somatics, right? People are familiar with somatics, say it's a picture of geometry, which some people are referencing as this is what sound looks like. Okay, so somatics is to some extent a visual reference of how sound and light and geometry organize matter into complex conversation to some extent, create form and geometry. Although this is really important to discuss. I've been saying this for a really long time, and it's time that we widen our perception because that's not quite showing all of the layers. Somatics is not quite showing all of the layers of sound and light. It's like a snapshot in a way, very similar kind of way. It's like a selfie is a frozen layer of that moment, right? Or, you take a picture of your cat. It's a frozen moment. And what is actually correct, not depicted in somatics, through that snapshot of sound, it's showing it vibrate, right? Like this. And what's actually, though, to be accurate and precise, key, what's actually occurring is a spiral, right? It's a spiral of those shapes layering and layering and layering continuously into the unified field, fast, 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 because it's through all the layers of the fields, all the infinity, the unified field. So what does that actually look like? Isn't this vibrating circular sound or square sound or geometry? It doesn't really do that. Sound doesn't really do that. That's how they're expressing it through the physical, right? However, through the unified field, sound, it's layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers, dimensionally, right? Dimensionally into, I could say infinity, into zero, however you want to describe it. And it's in varying octaves, tones, sounds, vibrations, right? Varying velocities. And it changes shapes through the unified field depending on what octave, right? How is it vibrating? Oh, it's faster. This is a higher frequency, right? Okay, so it's vibrating faster here. So that means that that shape must be different. That color will be different. So that spin and that spiral is actually much different than what's being expressed. So these tools that are measuring sound, light, sematics, are outdated, right? True technology of sound and light is infinite. I'm speaking, right? I'm speaking here. Anyone speaking anywhere? That word, right? That word, that enunciation, that tone never stops. I may sound like I finished the word, right? However, even though that word sounds done, it has its shape and tone, right? Even so, that sound is eternal. So it's continuing to spiral through the field. Nothing ever stops, right? It just keeps going and going and going. And so forever rippling. So we look at really, truly, correctly, sound as carrier wave, sine wave, right? Sine wave. Sound as a carrier wave of conscious, directed light intelligence, technology, information, energy. Sound and light together right? Carrier wave and the light precisely directed with specifically directed codes. We say that's what people call them. It's still not quite correct. Somatically, codes, instructions, right? It's code. It's encoded with frequency. There's frequency imbued, very specific instructions through the light to do certain functions. And what that does is create specific architecture, right? Because that form, that thought form, is creating, and it's bringing, it's building, it's weaving, it's co-creating into the physical form through directed light codes and instructions, specific architecture shapes, because that form is shaping, and that form is bringing, bridging, sounding as it's creating and woven, spoken, or sung into this reality or any others. So it's co-creating into physical form, new forms and realities through holographics, which was holographics. That's a whole nother topic. Holographics, which is essentially light technology through all of the fields, right? So if I'm writing light code, instructions, information, even as I'm writing a song that I'll sing, right? It's holographic. It's within all of the fields of information. So what is that is resonant technology. It has a resonance because it has a frequency, it has a light within the technology, right? So how how are we shaping that? What are we creating? Is how we're toning that, including ourselves, resonant architecture, all of our architecture. And so how consciously and precisely working with sound, light, and frequency is so important because it's reorganizing matter, it's building, it's creating energetic patterns, right? And it's actually doing that in the way that it really is, not the way a somatic looks. It's actually creating through all of the layers, all of the fields, dimensionally, right? Dimensionally, even if we don't necessarily perceive that way yet, it's still creating that way. So we're building here, but we're building dimensionally also, building through the unified field, which is beyond dimensionally. So very important. Can you tell I'm excited? Okay, so we'll get into resonant architecture. Again, we'll talk about all this a lot more. So much to say, so much to share and expand upon and come into remembrance. So, resonant architecture. Fine-tuning the nervous system, the body systems, and the energetic field. That's important. The nervous system is, to some extent, we could call it with words, the electrical grid, the sensor, the filter, the integrator, interwoven through the unified field and all of us. It's a lot, so we'll just take a drink of water. So the fascia, the nervous system is that, and it's so much more too, of course. Sensor, processor, filter, integrator, anchor, we could say, rounder of information. And that's through the unified field. So also too, of course, there's many networks. The fascia is a liquid crystalline communication and sensory network woven with the unified field that transmits vibrational and frequency data, light, data, energy, information, faster than the nervous system through the whole system, all of the body system, structural architecture through the unified field is transmitting, receiving, processing information, right? And so using very deliberate, which means precise, very specific, primordial frequency sound tone, and fields of precise conscious information changes the sympathetic and nervous system responses. It interfaces as communication, and it activates a high-level coherence internally and within the structures as a totality of unified field by and with filtering, integrating, anchoring, grounding, and weaving light, right? Frequency, sound, light, all of that, all the time. On, again, dimensionally, on all of the layers. So, another interesting perception, no pun intended, what I'm about to say, is the architecture of perception, right? So how we perceive is actually architecture. This is my perception. That's kind of funny. The architecture, the structure of perception is actually shaped, right, by our perception. So it's they're woven together. And so as we focus on upgrading and amplifying our internal frequencies, cellularly, dimensionally, blood, plasma, tissues, brain, again, all of it, through returning to pure state at the primordial cell seed level, first creation is primordial origination. As we return to our original state, we are expanding our divine blueprint, which is our structure, and our geometry, our cosmic architecture, and it shifts, literally shifts because it's expanding, shifts how we sense and perceive, integrate, and comprehend even reality. And it increases our conscious awareness. So it naturally, the architecture of perception is a different pattern. It's a different geometry. So when we shift into a wider perception, different perception, the architecture, the structure, the shape of that changes, which means naturally our conscious awareness expands into a new shape. So we're building something brand new, right? Huge. What do we want to build? That's a good question. Expanding perception through increasing velocity, frequency, vibration, expanding perception through raising, changing, and embodying through the whole body, your soul frequency changes the structure, its geometry, and the pattern of what is known. The geometry is different, right? After that, the geometry is different. So new pattern, new geometry, different octave, which is what? Frequency. Octave. We could say dimension, however we want to say it, plane of existence. Semantics. Different octave and frequency, and of course, the information, which is energy, is new / different. It's going to be different because it's different shape, different form, which means the information, the energy is different. It's tuned differently, the instructions are different. So how it will express, what shape it will be, is brand new. It's emergence, which is what's happening now. It's literally emergence. New levels of consciousness are new shapes, right? They're new shapes and new forms of what's next. And so every thought is literally architecturally building a new pattern through thought forming, right? Thought forming through layers and layers of light and sound, woven, weaving, expressing, built into the unified field, we could say woven, built, still structural, through the unified field and fabrics as new fabrics through sound and light, right? Spoken, sung, spun, toned through sound and through light is the new fabric of reality and structure, structural integrity. And this also changes what is known and accessible for all, right? Because once and as people do that, anyone does that, it changes what's known and accessible, because what's in the field are different fabrics, right? Different fabrics of, we could say, expression, papers with new information. If you have a book, like I've written those books, 8 books, each page is different information. And each one is also woven in the unified field, accessible for all, because thought has a shape, right? A sound. That thought has the shape of it, right? It'll have a coordinating sound wave, a color of a color, depending on what the energy is. It'll have a velocity, which is how fast is it going, what oscillation, what angle, what velocity, what intensity, what speed, will also determine what dimensional frequency bandwidth it's on, right? And so, as thought creates into form a structure, the geometry and the pattern that's built is shaped through that perceptual architecture, is shaped through perception and its frequency, right? It's shaped through perception and the frequency of it. Or, which is happening a lot now, this or it's collapsed onto itself, meaning that if there's a geometry that has been shaped, it will collapse onto itself back into source if it's distortion, right? So it'll just collapse whatever is being spoken. People are speaking lots of words all the time. If there's distortion or it's not pure true, it'll just collapse onto itself. So that thought form won't go anywhere, right? It'll be a form of the thought as it's you could say attempted, trying to be created, and then it'll just fall flat, collapse, and become something else, back into source, become something different. So we're making space, lots of space right now. When we change the pattern, which is the geometry, and its coordinating frequency, we change the structure and the structural integrity, right? And so that means that the physical reality, the architectural elements, the architecturally, it changes, right? Which is also what's happening now. So, frequency coherence and the refinement of perception. Frequency, well, first of all, what is coherence? We hear that a lot now, don't we? It's so important or required, really. And coherence is, by, you could say definition, what is it? It's clarity, it's flow, it's cohesion, harmony, alignment between all of the systems. And actually, people talk about brain heart coherence. It's beyond there. It's all of the systems that we already discussed that are aligned in harmony and coherence with the divine blueprint, illumined. All of the energetic fields, all of the soul mission, you could say, soul cosmic codex, must all be in coherence for divine orchestration. So everything, the soul mission, complete alignment, complete coherence, harmony between all systems, all layers, all levels, through the unified field into the cosmos of everything, returning to pure illumined state, right? So as we do that, when we do that, return to our pure state, our frequency stabilizes, right? Where we are sustaining, we say we harmonize and we raise our frequency. Well, what's required to sustain, meaning maintain, to sustain that is into complete coherence, allowing us to perceive and integrate pure source essence with immense clarity, precision, and also physically and universally, right? And beyond multidimensionally, it's universally. So as we refine our perception, that means seeing beneath and within the energy, expressions and experiences into the energetic architecture, the thought that's creating the matter in the form. Seeing and feeling, knowing, sensing its frequency and what is creating or sustaining it, right? Coherence, harmonized coherence. Let's talk about expanding sensory awareness beyond traditional frameworks, right? And what that means is moving beyond basic human known senses, well beyond the five senses, into the universal faculties, right? Claircognizance, direct uh, energetic witnessing. Some people will say tracking, that's not quite correct. Direct energetic witnessing, right? Field to field awareness of your field, awareness of other fields. Field to field awareness is other fields to your field, or other fields of the fields you've created within your field, right? The awareness of how everything is interwoven and functioning, and also sensing and we could say telepathic resonance. Beyond telepathy is beyond the mind, not as it's many times discussed. Telepathy is actually sensing, processing, receiving information, field to field resonance, and sometimes, many times, is actually streams or blocks of consciousness shared, right? And it's shared between fields, not sent thought to thought or mind to mind. It's so far beyond telepathy, and when we converse, as we converse and shift our languaging, we're actually communicating with less words, right? And we're learning to expand and see, and learning to expand through seeing, feeling, sensing, and hearing with all of our aspects, right? With our heart, with our skin, with all of our systems, our fascia. Many people are already experiencing this where they're feeling with different parts of their body, organs, tissues, feet. And with that, the sensing and processing also occurs with the breath and with the mouth, the ears and the eyes, and of course, so much more. It's literally every, you could say opening, every pore is a sensor. Every part of you is a sensor. So every pore is a sensor. Breathing, that breath. What is that? It's a unified field. It's the cosmos. It's the air. There's energy and information. Then the air. So you're breathing through your mouth, or say you're hearing with your ears, but there's the ethers, unified field. What are you sensing? And also, how are you navigating the evolving physical reality when experiences become this way, where they're increasingly spatial, spherical, and sensory rather than linear, right? Nothing's linear anyways. All of a sudden, people are saying it's not linear. No, it's never been linear. So we need to navigate that transition of architectural reperceiving, building our house of perception differently, so to speak. So I'm sure many of you have entered spaces, right? Place, room, space, home, work, store, anywhere, airport, that you've entered that space and instantly known the entire dynamic, right? Within that space without anyone speaking a word. So uh, let's just tune into uh, within ourselves, deconstructing that, deconstruct, so to speak. Why and how is your body actually reading and translating that data, right? So you walk in, you sense that whole space. How are you actually reading and translating, sensing, filtering, processing that information? And you're doing it naturally all the time, right? People will say intuition. Well, now we're refining and expanding upon that, even how we are navigating what we're sensing and feeling. And so we'll dive briefly into this next point, but we're going to discuss this whole session, a whole discussion workshop on the 5th of July. So if you're interested in this, what I'm about to say, let me know and you can sign up for that. We'll be live where we can exchange information, expand, ask questions, and talk about what we're discussing here. So, and what that is why and how language, articulation, and communication are evolving, expanding. And so linear spoken created language, again, linear no longer exists, never did. Linear spoken language feels incredibly restrictive, doesn't it? It feels inaccurate or even too general when desiring to describe cosmic universal experiences, i.e., example, explain oneness, explain oneness, explain all and nothingness, like how do you, let's explain what's so vast with words. So the shift towards telepathic exchange, right? They're calling it that still. The shift into telepathic exchange, or people will use the word light language, still not quite correct, right? It's frequency, primordial frequency, your soul frequency language. Language to language would be heart to heart, soul to soul. We're transitioning into speaking to each other in our own frequency language. And within, beyond this mind to mind, is telepathic exchange, right? Which also is, even beyond there and through there, woven in, of course, is direct soul knowing, where information is transferred. We could say transferred, exchanged, interfaced as an energetic block rather than a sentence, right? And it's been happening now. What's happening? It's been happening. It's energetic blocks of information and learning through these transitions, being in allowance, to be comfortable with silence that often accompanies deep evolutionary shifts and also adapting to field awareness, right? Which is true, we could say true telepathy, but it's not really that either. It's sensed and known with less words or none required. You just know it's your knowingness. And so we're going to talk about that much further. If you like to talk about that, feel free to let me know and sign up for the live there on the 5th. We're going to dive into embodiment and structural support next. Embodiment and structural support. And we'll focus on grounding these into daily life, right? So it has a contextual reference point, and also creating, it's important to create sustainable, energetic, physical, and structural change in and through the body. Very important, in and through the body. And so there's a relationship between vibration, embodiment, and self-remembrance, right? And what is that relationship between vibration, right? Our frequency, our emanation, our embodiment, and that's bringing, bridging, anchoring, integrating our whole vibrational frequency, our soul expression into our physical vessel. And that creates, sustains, supports self-remembrance, right? And evolution is not about leaving the physical body to reach the higher realms. It's about bringing, bridging, and anchoring all of source energy, all of your cosmic wisdom, and all of your energy. And of course, the vast octaves and realms into every facet, right? Every facet, every tissue, every cell, into and through your whole beingness, your whole body, all of your fields, all of your architecture. So source, soul, eternal essence, which is your source, soul, eternal essence, primordial pure tone, is that remembrance. And it's felt, it's emanated as an eternal and internal cellular awakening. And it's through our living libraries within our DNA that hold our cosmic divine lineages. Many of you already know about that. Our cosmic codex, our living libraries. We open our libraries, our pages, we open all of our pathways, right? In pure tone, pure essence, primordial pure frequency, emanating ourselves. What that allows is us to emanate our cosmic fullness, lineage, all of those libraries of the DNA. What does it say? How does it function? The ancient wisdom. And true embodiment requires us to fully meet. This is important, union. Fully meet and love our human essence while holding a higher frequency, right? So bringing pure tone, light, source energy into our full body. It's required that we meet and merge all of us together. So we're going to spend a moment on that briefly. Just looking at our call is getting long. We have so much more to discuss. And we're going to do that as we transition into our returns home. We're going to have much more of these. So we might breeze through the next couple and just summarize. So let's spend a moment now just opening the field deeper about developing greater sensitivity, which again we'll talk about. Developing greater sensitivity to subtle fields and information, right? Sensitivity, right? Intuition, sensitivity, sensing information, say empathic, however you want to describe it, is actually highly evolved sensory radar system, right? And it's a sensory radar system of your consciousness, so beings having sensitivity, great sensitivity. It's not a weakness, right? So learning the difference is important between absorbing external energy, which is what? Empathy without boundaries. And what's the difference between that and simply perceiving or witnessing it, right? Where you witness external energy, fields of information. You sense fields of information, right? But you don't entangle with it. It's simply perceiving or witnessing it. Conscious observation, navigation, and witnessing, not entangling with it. What's the difference? It's a lot of difference there. We're going to discuss that potentially just a bit, and then and then come into a summary. There's so much more we can say about that because subtle fields is what we're highly opening into now, right? There's so much on the fields of possibility that we can sense and tune into, and of course refine out of as we create our own fields of information. So it's important to know that difference. Learn the difference between absorbing external energy, perceiving it, or witnessing it, which is conscious observation, navigation through the observation, and not entangling with it, right? There's a huge difference. So, how to utilize sound and light, and of course, conscious directed fields of instruction and information are created really. And the point here too is to shine a light further. A reminder is that when we create these conscious directed fields of instruction, information, energy, and light, what that does is it keeps your, we could say, field clean, right? It keeps your energetic architecture clean, keeps your geometry, your template, your whole field, all of your fields expanded, completely expanded and sovereign, right? Not entangled, sovereign meaning free, no entanglement with other fields. And so it's very important to create those fields of energy and information through that sound instruction, whether you speak it, right? Speak the light, and sound with specific functions. So you're speaking it, singing it, sounding it, toning it, or utilizing perhaps light language, not quite correct, light language as instructing it through writing it, right? You're writing it on paper, maybe, or drawing it, painting it, creating it, chalkboard, or writing it within the holographic field. Just typically what I do. And of course, write it, create it with art, drawing books, all the things. So every possibility of modality of writing it. But you're also writing it as you're singing it, as you're toning it. You're writing it through your sound and your energy and your thought. It's creating that because you're writing that shape into form through the sound and the tuning and the toning of the frequency into and within and as the light. So we're going to discuss that later. Also, um, and also, before we transition, how can we reframe? Here's a question. Self inquiry. How can we reframe? Right? How can we reframe, reperceive, so to speak, perceive wider, and direct your conscious awareness and your highest sensitivities, sensing faculties, your sensory capacities of all of your faculties, all the systems, brain, nervous system, eyes, ocular, ears. I think of forehead, forehead sensing, everything is sensing, right? Sensing. And how can we reframe and reperceive to direct your highest sensitivities, highest, most aligned with and as your alongside your sensory capacities and your internal soul knowingness into the very tools that guide your cosmic and earthly co-creation. Sounds like a lot of words, right? So really what we're saying is, how can you reperceive wider, create deeper understanding, how to direct your highest sensitivities and possibilities through your internal soul knowingness into tools, right? How can you reframe it differently and create tools? How you're writing, what you're saying, how you're expressing, how you're tuning your field to guide that cosmic and earthly co-creation, meaning that your cosmic essence, beingness, into and through and with your earthly co-creation, meaning you on earth in your divine vessel, right? Your vehicle of travel, your resonant architecture. And there's so much more we can say on this. However, that's a beginning point to reflect on. Each and every one of you is there's a lot of ways we can do that. And this is opening the field to infinite possibilities. So we're going to dive into one more point and then we'll probably wrap up for today. This was really fun. I hope you all are enjoying this. We had initially planned to, which is funny, plan. Presence and plan don't go together. We had planned to do a live and the internet did not quite think we should. The internet said, we don't think so. So, but next time, Another time we're going to have a live where we can discuss this throughout with everyone that attends. So let's just briefly dive into creating structures capable of sustaining expanded states of awareness. That's important. Creating structures capable of maintaining expanded states of awareness, meaning once we think it to create it, it can sustain and be maintain its pure frequency, expanded state, conscious awareness. So that means also attaining and sustaining resonance and coherence in and as your primordial pure tone frequency, right? So building resonant architecture, and that's all the layers, structural architecture, your frame. When we look at building, there's a frame, right? You have the blueprints, which is your divine template, it's your blueprint. You have your frame, uh, the skeleton system, the skull. This is the actual frame. That's the part of the instructions, but it's also part of the base architecture is the skeletal system, right? So you have the resonant architecture within there and beyond there, which is, of course, the fields, the organs, the tissues, the skin, the body, the water, the blood, the plasma, everything else. And within there and alongside, to attain and sustain coherence in your frequency is refining. That's require. Refining, say, somatic, meaning physical. Refining somatic and or perhaps grounding techniques, right? How are you grounding your pillar, cosmos, through your body vessel into the earth that's ever changing swiftly, with unique new grounding techniques, right? Grounding differently, reperceiving what does that mean? What do you need? How does that look? How do you shift and change as it's shifting and changing? And so, alongside that is important is structured hydration, right? Structured molecular water, meaning that what you are ingesting has a structure to it. You need that structure. And we need structural alignment, right? Our spine as the foundational architecture of and with alongside our divine cosmic architecture, our geometrical template. All must be in structural alignment. The physical, the energetic, all the layers in between, the energy bodies, the etheric, the fascia, the nervous system, the organs, the meridians, all of it. And so we just had it's called a living spine yesterday. It was actually a sound immersion with precise primordial pure tone frequencies, directed light, to assist with that structural architecture through the spine and all of the vertebrae, all the systems, the fascia, the skull, the leg bones, the shins, the knees, the feet, because it's so important, especially now. So if anyone's interested in experiencing that, you just let me know. I have the replay available. It's called The Living Spine. And what you do is listen to the sounds and tones like a meditation. There's a description in the beginning of essentially to some extent what we're talking about and how is it relevant to the spine, the living spine, tuning our architecture, and then we go into a deep sound immersion, which many of you have experienced probably through the YouTube. So what's important alongside that to attain and sustain the resonance within the frequencies, pure tone frequencies, is sustaining the expansion that is required to build and continue to expand upon strong energetics, right? Our strong energetic fields and structural architecture. And we could say multidimensional, but it's beyond there because it's universal and the unified, through the unified field, right? It's through consistent especially now, conscious practice, as it shifts, we refine and refine and fine tune. It's very important to fine tune our resonant vessel to sustain, maintain, sustain your pure essence, right? Your pure tone frequency, and tune accordingly. So what the moment calls for, where you are, what fields you're feeling, sensing, processing, filtering perhaps into and out of, right? And so what's really important, we'll dive into all of this so much deeper. And also as it evolves, as we evolve very swiftly, we're going to discuss this much more and deeper. But for now, we've discussed a lot. And so next time, we're going to have an actual live, actual live with the internet cooperation. And we're going to integrate a lot through this, I'm sure, talk and let it permeate through the field, right? Because once, as I mentioned, many of you probably already know this, that once something is spoken, right, it's in the field of the unified field, which means all of this information that has been transmitted, shared, expressed, exchanged, it's possible now for everyone to integrate within their system and field, right? So yes, I'm going to share this with everyone that's here, that's coming to, signed up for the experience, the workshop, and also the replay. However, yes, it'll be shared on YouTube, right? That information is accessible through the unified YouTube, through all of the fields of information. We all know this. And so, as it's spoken in the unified field, anything, thought, sung, tone, fields created, it's available and accessible and integratable for all that are ready and willing, choosing to do so. So, this information is a beginning base point of what I'll be discussing. However, we're going to expand so much upon this because it's so important that everyone remembers that and fine tunes and tunes, harmonizes, and comes into their full awareness and expansion of their divine templates, blueprints, cosmic libraries, living libraries, right? So, with that, I just want to thank everyone that has tuned in, experienced this deep immersion of discussion, we could say workshop. There was not quite an interactive workshop. However, I do welcome you to share how you experienced it, what you felt, what you thought, what you saw, how you maybe want to discuss further other perceptions. We're going to continue to even refine, we could say, tune into specific parts of these topics further and create their own spaces for discussion, where there's a whole session or a discussion workshop live of that. So we dive deeper and deeper and deeper, right? Because we're constantly expanding multidimensionally, universally. So everything is layer, 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 layer expansion. So as we open this field, discuss this and share it with whoever resonates, finds it, feels it, harmonizes with it, it benefits from it, say share it with somebody else, however it works, is continuing to expand all, right, in the cosmic bloom of universal oneness. So it's really for all and everyone. So my intention is that you find, experience, feel, resonate, and receive this in deep alignment. And of course, open wide in your perceptions and all the possibilities. And we will close for now because we are literally building now new foundations from here. And it comes from within our structure, from the base. And that base is in coherence. And so when we begin from there in that center point, in unified coherence, as we expand outwardly, a bloom and a flower, we are constantly expanding the whole. So I hope you join us on July 5th for the language discussion and live workshop. If you'd like to join up, you can contact me direct or join up, sign up. You can contact me direct and also share other perhaps ideas, perceptions, and we can always create another expansion from there. My cat's here. So that's about that time. She's saying we have to play now. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed it. I will see you next time. Good love.